please. Hello, everybody. Warm welcome. We are here for a very interesting session of a first generation entrepreneur. So a very warm welcome to Commander Ashok, who is a naval architect and has been with the forces for more than 2 decades. I would first like to introduce our council member, Prabha Dikshit, who is going to be moderating this session. A few words about you, Prabha. Prabha is the co-founder of Akshara Arbol International School, a 2-campus K-12 school at Chennai, and currently leads the primary school as the PYP-IB coordinator. Being the first IB-PYP school in Chennai, she led the school towards IB-PYP authorization in 2014 and the first 5-year review of the program in 2018. Prabha holds a master's degree in business systems from Monash University, Australia, and a B.Ed from IGNOU. She also holds a diploma in Spanish from the Government of Mexico and has taught English and Spanish to several professionals and expats in Mexico and India. She is a very accomplished person, and not just in her career or academics. She is also a Bharatanatyam dancer and has been awarded the Yuvakala Bharati Award. So over to you, Prabha, to take on the session.
Before Prabha takes over, I just wondering how could she accomplish so many things in so little time? It is quite. I should congratulate her for that. Prabha, congratulations for that. I think all of you, I think, will be in the same league. So much in so little time. That's great. That's great to be part of this group.
Prabha, thank you so much, Dr. Rajshri, for that very kind introduction, and to you as well, Commander Ashok. Again, very kind of someone with perhaps several laurels, several medals, in both literal, very literal as well as a figurative sense. You yourself wear it, and it's very kind of you to pass that over back to me. So good evening, everyone who's joined us here this evening. Let me just begin with a short introduction of our guest for this evening, Commander Ashok Selvaraj. He was commissioned in the Indian Navy on the 1st of January, 1998. A naval architect from the Cochin University of Science and Technology, and an alumnus from IIT Delhi and the Defense Services Staff College, a very premium defense institute across the world for strategic leadership. Commander Ashok's primary role has been in design, construction, and upkeep of naval warships. With 22 years of service in the Indian Navy, he continues to serve our country. He's currently the head of the naval project team at the L&T shipyard, overseeing the construction of naval ships. And this is over the course of the week from Monday through Friday. And then come the weekend, he metamorphosizes into an entrepreneur, overseeing the running of his ocean-themed resto bar, something that he created with his friends. It's wonderful having you with us this evening, Commander Ashok, at the Wiki Tamil Nadu Entrepreneurship Council's Wiki Talks for September 2021. And we're really looking forward to hearing you and delving into the mind and the life of a first generation entrepreneur. And I think I have a huge responsibility of steering this conversation to truly hear you out and use this wonderful opportunity that you've provided us to learn from your experiences. And I'm going to do my best to be able to do that.
To begin with, thank you so much, Prabha, for that introduction. Actually, I gave that introduction, sorry. So I thought I should be pompous, but it came naturally to Prabha to say all those words. But yes, I've been in Navy for the last 25 years, and I currently to be in Navy. Plan of giving my retirement soon. We've been enough of being away from family, and family is also looking forward to be with me. So that is the call I want to take. So with that premise, though I've been in 25 years in Navy, my experience is all about Navy, the attributes of Navy. Entrepreneurship, I think I have to learn from you. So it's going to be a takeaway for me from this discussion, and I have to take a lot of things from you all from this August gathering. And all
So
this
I would say that's the first thing that we would, I would probably like to share here is that we always come with certain stereotypes of mental models in our own head. And when we first heard of Commander Ashok and you hear of armed services, and then, we create a mental model in our minds of, what someone from the armed forces is likely to be like. And I have to say that you've broken every mental model in the few conversations that I've had with you over the last 10 days, whether
Yeah.
it's the ease with which the conversation can happen or the subtle sense of humor. And I think on that note, I also have to say another stereotype that I think we all always come with is that generally for servicemen, the path after retirement is in administration, right? And that's what I think we've always seen. But I think in your case, you have actually chosen entrepreneurship. And again, that's a path that's laden with so much unpredictability, nothing like what administration would look like. Have you always been someone who's been on that unbeaten path, a path that people would normally not take? Where did that begin? If you can take us through that.
Okay, first let me begin with the administration, this thing of armed forces. Actually, in my own life story, I am a naval architect in armed forces, and I've been most of my life after my training, I've been looking after management of projects. And when it comes to armed forces, the projects which we handle are to the tune of multiple crores. And when we started in 2001, I started with 10 crores, and today we are handling a project worth 40,000 crores in L&T shipyard with a bunch of 15 or 16 people, bright young officers. So over a period of time, probably we get to learn the nuances of the unpredictability. We are always living, eating, sleeping, and drinking with unpredictability. And that unpredictability character probably was ingrained in me from my childhood. Basically, I just give a small intro about my childhood. I am from a place called Kovilpatti near Madurai. People near Madurai, Trichy, all the people who know the place called Kovilpatti, small hamlet. My father was in army. He started as a Jawan and retired as a Subedar. He retired in 96. So my father and my people in the village thought that I'm good in studies. Only I knew that what was my true character. So they thought, okay, let him settle down in the village, put him in state board, and then let him continue with his studies. Let him not take him around the countryside, because my father used to be posted all over the countryside, right from Trivandrum to Jodhpur to Jalandhar to Assam. You name a place, I've been there. So at around 8th standard, I guess, 8th standard, I shifted to Kovilpatti and joined a school called Lakshmi Mills High Secondary School. People from Coimbatore will be aware of that group. It's a spinning mill group. I started there, and they grew me. Actually, they brainwashed me. My parents, my teachers, and my relatives, they all thought, okay, I can use Tamil words in between sometimes to just add some juice to this conversation. Otherwise, it will become like I'm doing some documentary. So,
Yes, I think that should be okay. I think pretty much most of us here at least follow Tamil. Yes.
yeah. So they told, okay, ரொம்ப படிக்கிற மாதிரி தெரியும் நான் பையன் கொஞ்சம் நல்லா எல்லாம் பண்ணலாம்னு சரி டாக்டர் ஆக்கிடலாம் சொல்லிட்டு அவங்களா முடிவு பண்ணிட்டு they decided amongst themselves and they told Ashok, you are going to the doctor. I told, fine, if you're all so interested in me becoming a doctor, let me try my hands, and I had full focus on that. Came to 12th, yes, I got good marks in 12th, all said and fine, I became more confident. Nice marks in 12th, in fact, I had a good cutoff in biology, physics, chemistry. I was super confident I'm going to get through medicine, and I would have been senior of Dr. Deepa or her husband sometime probably. We were lucky people that I didn't become a senior somewhere. Notwithstanding whatever happened in 12th, there was something called as entrance exam during my time. 92 batch, I am from 1992 batch. 200 marks from 12th and 50 marks from entrance exam. That was the kind of selection. So I had around 195 or something, 196, something like that in 12th, and entrance was 50. I wrote the entrance exam also. And when I got the marks, I had 243 out of 250. So the previous year cutoff was, I think, around 235 or 236. So I was super confident. Okay, I will get into medicine and I'm going to the doctor. I'm going to be an orthopedician. I'm going to cut people's leg. and do some, see some blood and all. I started dreaming, daydreaming, and was absolutely focused that I'm going to become doctor. Then this problem came there was a war of words between CBSE board and state board. The CBSE board told there are a lot of people like Ashok who don't study, but they want to become doctors. There are a lot of people in CBSE who are very good, but they don't become because of this discrimination in the marks. So the case went on till December. Since I was very, very confident in getting the college, I didn't apply for any college, any other college but for medicine. And finally, the verdict came, okay, please do the selection based on only entrance exam. And fortunately for me, the cutoff came at 43.8. I was 43. So I lost the medicine basically by 0.8 marks. And then the hell broke loose. Everyone in the village, so I spent 1 year at home, 92 to 93, babysitting my sister's daughter, feeding her, doing all those things. So I became very adept at housekeeping. So I learned one art of housekeeping, babysitting, keeping the house clean, doing the errands, buying vegetables, gas also. I became slowly used to it. People didn't have anything else to do. So they, okay, so I became very, very confident about doing all this course. Then the next year came, I wrote all the exams again, got selected for, got the marks, confident this time again, but I didn't want to lose out, sit 1 more year and do babysitting for another baby. So I decided I will join some college next to my hometown. There's one college called GVN College. I joined BSc Physics there. Then again, this case was going on. So I told, okay, this time also it is going to be, it is going to take some time, but I will definitely get through it. So while going to college BSc Physics, I was not actually inclined in that college. I was not getting that kind of interest or the focus to study. So I used to most of the time go and sit in the library. So once I was sitting in the library, I chanced upon a newspaper where the newspaper, I saw a big ad where it says, youngsters, all bright youngsters who want to join Navy, serve the nation, please apply for service selection board, that is to become an officer or technical officer. Then I saw, okay, why not waste time in this college? Let me apply for this. Then I applied, and there the marks required are very less. So they told, okay, this chap seems to be slightly more marks, so let us call him for interview. Basically, the number of seats allocated for this college is 50 seats per year. It's called as Naval Engineering College, which is in Lonavala. So I had gone to Bhopal all alone. The service selection board happens over a period of 7 to 8 days where they test your psychology or leadership skills or speaking skills or how do you lead a team without we knowing. They'll give a lot of activity. You just need to go and do those activity. And when those guys do the activity, they'll just see how this chap is behaving with other colleagues and how this chap is leading or how this chap is able to react to a particular situation. Situation reaction test la put on Monday, how to go about it. We just give some answers which comes to our mind. Basically, they're looking for that raw talent where these people can be molded into somebody whom they wanted to be as armed forces officers. So the previous 2 batches, they conduct this interview in batches of 75, 80. The previous 2 batches in Bhopal, the complete batch got washed out. The 150 people, nobody got selected. Mine was a 3rd batch. And from my batch, 2 of us got selected. Out of 75, 2 of us got selected. And in that, out of 75, I was the only one who did not know to speak English properly. Because I've come from Lakshmi, we don't speak English. English, so we have to be always be very careful, not even use a single English word. So that was the upbringing for the last 5 years before I went for this interview. So English was a bit of, it's a handicap for me at that point of time. So I just thought I'll wait for time. They're giving the flight tickets, they're giving sapadi jolly. Ironically, I got selected and I was in the 7th heaven. Oh, I got something which I didn't expect. It's all out of my own effort. Then when I came back to the college, same time the results also have come. Okay, you have got through Madras Medical College, please come and join. Then there is a dilemma whether to go for medicine, which I was looking forward for last 6, 7 years, or I go for this armed forces, which my father was against it. He told, we will not go to armed forces again, 1 person is enough. But then I discarded everybody's advice and then joined Navy. So there my unpredictability started, I guess, without me knowing it. Then after that, 93, I joined, 3.5 years of training, and then training and the engineering degree or naval architecture goes together concurrently. So it was a kind of journey where we all took a lot of fungus. Fungus me and a soldier was the quality which probably I possessed and people didn't like it. So that course was difficult. But during the course of training, what we learned was the time management. For the benefit of all who are here, the armed forces training is basically you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you get half an hour to probably freshen up and all those things, and you have one or two bathrooms with so many people. So many people using the same place. And when you are a fresh journey, you will be the last person to go inside and the first person to come out wherever you go. So 5:30 is the hands call, what we call. You get up, do your bed, and there should not be a single crease or anything. Do your bed immediately, freshen up, and then 6 o'clock we go for our physical training. So 6 to 7, 7:30 goes our physical training. Come back again, freshen up. 8 to 8:30 is the breakfast. The dining hall can accommodate 1,000 people. We'll be around. We do orientation course along with all people, so it'll be around 600 odd strength. So when we come to the dining table and sit and do all that, we get probably 5 minutes to eat. So those 5 minutes, we'll have to eat everything and then again rush to the college, 9 o'clock course, and then come back again at 5 o'clock or 4:30, and then again change and go for your games, whether it is football, hockey, cricket, whatever they find you good. And then when you think Sunday, oh, I'll take a rest, they'll make you run probably 10 kilometers of cross country. So you don't know how time flies. You are totally out of touch or out of sync with the external world. Incidentally, when people told them when we're training, the initial training is in Goa. Younger friends, all the big J factor set in. Goa is going to be Goa. But finally, I landed up seeing only that mountain where we trained in Goa. Nothing else we knew. We knew there's one mountain in Goa. We had to come down, run 10 kilometers, and go up. That is all we knew about Goa. So that is the biggest lesson. What we learned in the training is time management, and whatever stress you are put in, you will not have food to eat. You will not have time to sleep. You will want to study. You will not be able to study. But if you don't get the good marks, you are given additional punishment. So it puts a lot of stress at that young age. But that is how slowly, probably it is like hitting a hot iron with a hammer and shaping you up. That gave great confidence to all of us. We become a civilian gully boy into slowly you are developing an officer of Indian Armed Forces, whether it is Navy, Army, Air Force, the training pattern is same. And the qualities that they want to imbibe in you is what time management, stress management, and how you handhold each other. When somebody is not getting enough food to eat, we steal food. Okay, whatever it is, our bags will be full of bread, butter, jam, whatever it is. And when we go back, whoever is not eaten, we share it. And the people, when these guys get to the bond harmony between each other is great. So then that is where we have, okay, we will go together, we'll live as a team, die as a team, work as a team. So that teamwork automatically sets it. So these are the few attributes which gets ingrained in us right from our initial days in the training. One is your time management. The second one is your stress management. Third one is your teamwork. And fourth one is discipline. If you're supposed to be in a place in a particular time, you be there. That is because fear, nothing works like fear factor. The fear factors is so much in you, you have to do that. So over a period of time, it becomes your second nature. That is how you get trained in armed force. And once you're out of it, then you're on your own. Once you become an officer, then you're on your own. Then it depends how you take forward yourself further, how you become or what you do in your work then describes you or shapes you as an officer. So this is in nutshell, I think. No, it's been very long. Sorry.
No, but I'm saying 25 years of journey in the armed forces, and before that to get into how you actually got into it. I suppose it needs a little bit of delving into it. Really cannot be done in a
because most of the people who think about armed forces might not know what is the kind of training, what is the kind of training. Basically, they know only training. But what they do in training, probably it is still this thing for a lot of people. So I thought,
And
okay,
I
let me
think
give a
also
small
when
brief.
you talk of learning time management as a very, very important skill, I think it's something we can relate to. But because I think even from an external world, we often in common parlance say it's like, it's like gun time, like the army time. So I think that's something we can relate to. But I think the notions you've brought of the importance of empathy, of sharing, of, seeking out people in your team, truly caring for them. I think those are aspects that we typically would not associate with training in the armed forces. And it's lovely how you brought those out as well. So yeah, it does sound like an off-beaten path from the beginning. And perhaps because of the war of words between CBSE and the state government back in the 90s, the world lost a doctor, but certainly got a good commander and an entrepreneur. So
Yeah, I
think
would have been a good doctor also, I guess.
perhaps.
I don't know.
Yes.
Because I'm very good at using knives. I used to do like good surgeries with what is the cockroaches and the rats and the lizards.
Right. And your 1 year of housekeeping experience in 1992, I'm sure you were used to all kinds of equipment in the kitchen as well. So I'm wondering, how did the seeds of your entrepreneurship journey into a food and beverage industry begin? Was it to do anything to do with the 1992 experience of, staying home and taking care of household chores, or was it something else? If you can quickly take us through that.
Where that all happened when I was a kid, so we soon outgrow that, and within no time you become one of you get basically engrossed in the job what you do. So very soon you forget that you are nothing but a naval officer. You become like that one. You don't know anything about outside world. You wear an uniform, white uniform. You go, you come back. That is all you know. Our world is such a cocoon world, and the basic thing is we don't have a right to speak or right to write whatever the basic constitutional rights the other people have. So we take it as we have to serve the country. So it becomes a second nature to us. Slowly over a period of time, 10 years, 10, 20 years, when we grow, then we have a family, then we have a kids. But after some time, most of the time it happens. Nowadays, the educational facilities of the kids take a lot of priority. And unlike before, like I see a lot of women entrepreneurs, the women today who get married to armed forces officers, they also have to have their own career. They have spent so much of time, they spend so much of energy, they spend so much of money to get themselves equipped. There are a lot of brilliant ladies who have married to armed forces officers. You will be amazed to see the kind of caliber, the kind of degree they hold. So it might be criminal on part of the officers not to encourage them or not to empower them to do what they would like to do. Otherwise, if they're not married, the armed forces officers. But unfortunately, because of the nature of the job, we move out of a particular place every second or third year. So, like my wife, she's a practicing doctor. She never got an opportunity to work full-fledged in any place. I moved from Port Blair to Delhi to Bombay to Goa to Cochin and Vizag and Ooty. Is all in within a matter of 20 years. I would have moved at least 12, 13 places. So whether it was wife's career or your child's education, nowadays the education, the the industry or the environment has become so competitive. If you don't equip your kids with the right kind of opportunity, the right kind of schools, the right kind of teachers, probably you feel that they're losing out. So after a particular period of time, I thought I should. It'll be criminal on my part not to let them do what they really want to do. So then after I finished probably 20 years or so, my wife and kids shifted to Chennai. They shifted to Chennai, settled them there, and she has own her practice. And I put my son in a school for better stability. Right now he's in 12th. So, but then I kind of being away from them, it was not right, both for me and both for the family. Being together is always nice feeling. The bonhomie or the bonding between the husband, wife, and son and relatives is better when we're in the same place. So I had in mind, okay, now they have settled down, I have to do something. Like Prabha brought out there, that administration in apostrophe bold underline was there in my mind. I should do something. I should get into some job somewhere. In this process, I was contemplating. That is when my son, during his summer holidays, I was posted in Vizag and he came to stay with me for 1 month. So we used to go out every day. I wanted him to feel that mummy is very troublesome. Mummy, Papa is a jolly good fellow. So I used to take him for swimming, horse riding, to hotels, restaurants. We used to explore all the possible restaurants, right from the roadside restaurants to five-star hotels and so. So during this time, I came to know one restaurant was been spoken about a lot. One Italian restaurant called what is it? Monster Spaghetti Monster or something like that. They're very upcoming restaurant and very famous for Italian. So I took my son there. So when we had the food there, I really liked the food a lot. And my son was going gaga over it. I told, oh, my son is liking me a lot. Now why not do something like this? There's no pressure, no tension. Or restaurant open bantama na lalangla potama nama paadu nama club la ukandukalamantu. So that is where the thought process came. Okay, why not do this? Like I told, when you are focused on something and you want to do something, then you start doing research how to go about it. That is when I approached the owner of Flying Spaghetti Monster. I got it now. The restaurant name is Flying. I approached the owner through an email. See, I am from Armed Forces. I like the restaurant much. I want to settle on Chennai. Why don't you give me your franchise in Chennai? I would like to take it over and give your flavor to the Chennai. It's really good. But somehow the owner told, no, you're from Armed Forces. You don't have any experience in F&B industry. You will not be able to do this. You are not a right fit for this job. And that actually, I took it in the wrong sense probably, or that probably instigated me that how can someone say that you're not fit to do a particular job? I told no, now I will definitely do a job probably better than Flying Spaghetti Monster. Incidentally, I got transferred to Chennai at the same time. I told, okay, the God has heard my prayers. Now he wants me to come to Chennai and start this restaurant. That is the biggest transfer has come to Chennai. Then I started hunting for a place. And that's the time when I was sitting with my friends who had come over, and then we were discussing about a club culture in the evening. And then I know, why Flying Spaghetti? Well, let me do something better. Let me get into a club culture thing in Chennai, and OMR does not have any decent clubs. Then it started. My journey was going all smooth till then. The trouble started when I decided to start a club. Anyway, 3 years of struggle, and finally we started, and probably the trouble was getting bigger and bigger. And I was about to launch this restaurant bar in March. Exactly 2 days after that, the lockdown was announced. So around, I think March to October or something like that, allows to open. October to February, we operated. We just took our first step. The second lockdown came. And then again, another 4 months, again, we opened now. So it was actually a journey full of thorns, bends, everything, whatever conceivable could go wrong, went wrong. Then probably the training part, or how we got hardened in armed forces, all those things gave us the resilience, gave us the encouragement, gave us the confidence, and gave us the management skills to overcome all those hurdles and still be able to be afloat with our neck above water. That's the only thing above water now. So just struggling to get going, and probably with the last 1 month, what I'm seeing, I'm confident that we will grow and will completely come out of water probably within 6 to 1 year time. I think that's the whole ifs and buts and stories of Ashok.
Lovely. I mean, I love the way you say that your neck is the only thing above water. I mean, after all, you're a man who's used to floating above water for long hours, long days. So I'm sure you will find ways to come out. I mean, yet again, I'm thinking, I mean, what I'm hearing you say is that ability to, look at that little bit of an unpredictability in your life, and a simple idea, something that you saw with your son in a restaurant on a fun family evening, and then getting inspired by that to do further research on it, and actually using the negative reinforcement, as we call it in the education world, from the restaurant owner, and turning that into something to say, and after all, again, probably you also mentioned to say that you're used to a lot of panga in the courses. So maybe it was that panga to say, okay, you are telling me no, let me figure out a way to know
Yeah,
how I do this. So I think it's very, very nice to hear those stories of simple things, a simple conversation, a simple idea, but to actually take that on, hold on to it, stay committed to it, and look at it to say, okay, how am I going to do this? And how can I make this a part of my life, a way of my life, so that I can find a space to settle in, so that we are able to come together as a family. And I think that's some lovely things you've shared there. Um, and I think over the last, 20 minutes, you've been touching back, perhaps very, very unconsciously, on so many lessons that you have been learning as an officer in the armed forces, whether it's to do with time management, the need for a routine, stress management, the ability to do teamwork. All of these things, are thoughts that you've been repeatedly sharing at various points in time, right? And many times we tend to look at things operating very much in a silo. We think this is one track, and even if I have another career, that's a parallel track. But however, hearing you, it's very, very clear that there's a definite crossover of experiences from your life as an officer in the armed forces that you're probably taking over into your life as an entrepreneur, right? And what are some of those other things that you can share with us over and above what you've already said, as to what are those life lessons you've probably imbibed from your days, right from when you were a cadet, moving on to becoming an officer, that you feel today is holding you in good stead in your entrepreneurship journey?
What I feel which has been actually holding, which has allowed me to hold my position, one is single point focus. That has been, that actually, if you have a person who has a single point focus, it reinforces your confidence. Some disturbance?
Sorry, sir, I've muted them. You can continue.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. Single point focus or undivided focus for a particular goal, what you've selected, will reinforce your confidence. And then that actually, once you have that, it opens up so many ways or means to achieve that. One is focus. The second thing, what I believe the most, is transparency in conversation. Like when I was in armed forces, I used to interact with a lot of vendors for supply of equipment, whatever it is. Generally, what I've seen is when if I am the owner and if I'm speaking to vendors, the vendors don't get the kind of respect or some. That is my take. It's not. It might not be true otherwise. But what I see in armed forces is, because people, you don't want to be seen as being very cordial with vendors. Immediately they feel, okay, this two chips have some nexus or something. To avoid that, people generally keep a distance with the vendors. Okay, talk to them, keep them in a distance. But somehow I was not very comfortable with that. So any vendor, small to big, dealing in thousands to crores, I used to make him sit in my office, give him a cup of coffee, treat him with utmost respect, give him the due, because he is putting all his heart and soul in whatever, and he is doing that to make himself live a peaceful life in the society. He is doing his job, I am doing my job. And we all have our own self-esteem. So let us not degrade that esteem just because of you're in a position to do so. So we broke the shackles, and trust me, in last 20 odd years, I've dealt with almost 100 or 200 odd vendors. And over a period of time, but the transparency was there. Okay, I am doing my job, you're doing my job. There is nothing involved. I don't need any favors from you, and I will not do any favors to you. Whatever is due, whatever is right, it will happen. If you do your job right, and if I do my job right, everything will happen on time, without any problem, without any hurdles, and without anybody speaking anything about us. So that was kind of a relation which I want to do with the vendors, and exactly same thing. And I carried out here when I came to entrepreneurship. Whomever vendor I met, whomever people I met, the consultants, the architects, the people who do the job, the carpenters, the painters, my own team, the manager, the cooks, the service people, the barmen, or the drivers, the watchmen, everybody deserves his own self-respect, and please don't ever do any harm to the self-respect. That is one thing which I carried forward, and I believe that has given its own positive response. For example, like when I closed on for the first time, all my staff I had to send. I didn't pay them any salary, but when I want to open the second time, I just gave them a call, and you'll not believe I got all of them back. I had 17 people, and 17 people had gone out to Odisha or Assam or Tirunelveli, whatever, in all part of the country. And when I gave them a call, all were readily, more than readily, willing to come. And I can say with a lot of pride that I got all of them back with a smiling face. So that probably is the outcome of treating people with a lot of dignity, a lot of self-respect, respect them for whatever they're doing. And when I don't have the manpower, like when we're about to start, we had around 15 days of layoff time before we started. We want to bring up the restaurant because it's been locked down 4 days. We all put together, we all work together, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the utensils, cleaning the kitchen. We all put our hands, like I told, I'm quite experienced in housekeeping. So I became more that hat also. And then we did all those things together. So probably that kind of being together is what gets the business going. You may not get the business, but you learn the goodwill of people. If not today, tomorrow, when you want somebody or when you want somebody's help or you are in dire need, you will not know this help might come from unforeseen quarters. Like I'm now interacting with you all. I never had expected that I'm going to interact with so many successful ladies. And tomorrow, if I say Ashok is struggling, I don't know, all of you will say, hey, Nama Ashok, konja kashtapadra, you will come and help me out. So that is the kind of result, or that is the kind of response you get from people when you treat them with a lot of dignity and respect. So these two things, never let your team, one of my team member, father got ill, he wanted to do some operation, lockdown time, okay, help him with that. Somebody's wife is in a hospital, help him with that. See, spending 5,000, 6,000 rupees here and there, you spend that one shot at some restaurant. But those 5,000, 6,000 rupees for that person is like a lifeline. So that is the kind of approach we generally followed, and it comes unknowingly to us. We don't do it deliberately. It just comes as a second nature, a habit to us. Probably that is what is helped me in getting out of the trouble what we had because of lockdown. And it's been really amazing. I was really overwhelmed by the kind of support and the love my people showered on me. So that's the time I realized, okay, this is what is, you respect people and people will give it back to you at some point of time, the same kind of respect and love. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Your team, if you have a good team and all these financial problems, COVID's brothers, sisters, whatever it comes, you will be able to overcome that with a lot of poise and dignity and with a lot of confidence. I have got that confidence. I'm very sure in the next 6 months to 1 year, I'm going to do well with these kind of team members what I have. They give a lot of confidence to you. That is the biggest lesson I've learned from this pandemic and this team and this giving that respect each other. So don't consider the differences. Differences is created by money, nothing else. So let us not bring that into the picture. Treat everyone as a human being. That is what is the biggest lessons what I've learned. And probably that is what is going to keep every one of us in this times afloat.
What a beautiful lesson you've shared, Ashok, through this story of first see the human in the other person and recognize that it's the same soul which is in the other person as well. And to talk of respect, dignity, building that goodwill, very important lessons in entrepreneurship, in leadership. And I think somewhere you perhaps read into the minds of some of us as well, because Dr. Rajshree's posed a question on the chat window saying, what are some of those lessons that the pandemic has taught you and what are those words of inspiration you can offer? And I think you hit it right there without even realizing that that was a question that was out there.
Yeah, I didn't see the question.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. You didn't even know the question was there. It was almost like, you know, you read into our minds and you brought that response in so beautifully. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be a little cheeky, if I may, to an armed forces officer. We're going to do a little bit of a rapid fire now.
Okay.
It's because we've settled into a monotone of the conversation. So what we're
Yeah.
going to do is, I'm going to be throwing two words at you, and I'd
Okay.
like a really quick 1-minute response from you. And now these two words are going to sound like they are very, very opposite ideas or attributes, absolutely on two different sides of the scale.
Okay.
Right? However, life is always a balancing act, right? So, would like to hear through your quick 1-minute response. What do you see on both sides of that coin as you
Okay.
hear the two words? Okay.
Okay.
So, what I'm attempting to do here is to put a naval officer in a situation reaction test. And
Oh, I
how you're going to
am
emerge
going
on
to the
this.
service selection board interview once again. Good, great.
Okay, so the first set of words for you is discipline and flexibility.
Okay. Discipline is basically, it comes your own, whatever you do. Discipline is not only about keeping up the time. Discipline is you have to live up to whatever you have decided for yourself. Don't live for someone else. If you have decided, I want to do that something, then be disciplined in your approach. Suppose if I want to start a restaurant, do the diligent research. Go for the right people. Do whatever you're doing to start, be focused and don't get into the mode where take advice from everybody and then go in all directions. Be yourself, and whatever you're trying to do, be true to yourself. If you're convinced about what you're doing, then you will do everything what is required for that. That is for me is discipline. And time is incidental. Coming on time, being on time, doing everything on time is incidental.
So there's discipline on one end, there's flexibility on the other. So would like you to hear your
Yeah,
response.
flexibility is I don't want to be a straight-jacketed person. Okay, if I am like this, I will only tread this path. For example, I'll tell you when I started this restaurant, they told all this the service people who are in the bar or the thing, you have to train them. They have to greet a person in a particular way. Welcome, sir. Good evening, sir. How are you, sir? How is the madam? He will not even know anything about that guest. I told, please don't do that. If Prem is going and visiting people, the people who are coming there should identify you as Prem, not an employee of Crazy Ivan or something. You should be identified as Prem. Prem works in that place. Saravanan works in that place. Kumarasan works in that place. Not that you Crazy Ivan employs these people. So that flexibility is what I want to give it to my employees. Like if I have a particular project going in a particular way, I have particular protocols. You have to take this project in this way, this way, this way. But if I find a better way to do a project and you are going to deviate from the processes, you deviate without ensuring that you're not going to affect the end goal. So that is where my flexibility comes. Don't stick on to a particular idea, and if that idea is not working, you stick on to that continuously. You just see how to deviate the process and see how to reach that goal. Like in our job, which I'm seeing the other side of the job, one is on the other side of the job, what I'm doing. Ours is a highly big project, and COVID actually played a big disruptive game there also. Like a lot of workers coming from it, they left the job. They left. So then we realized how to overcome that job. So we put people in 3 shifts. So that was actually working in social distancing also happening. And shifts were also there. We provided and we had mass vaccination at one go. We told, okay, let us organize this mass vaccination, and we vaccinated everybody at one go. And then we started working, and that we have picked up pace in a very decent way. And probably we are closing in on the curve what we had planned earlier, what we had before COVID. A lot of other activities happened, which I may not be able to tell, but that is what is the flexibility of approach. You cannot have a particular plan. If there's some disruption come in that plan, how to overcome that plan, even if it is against the processes. That is what I take it as flexibility, which works well if you have your end goal in mind. You should not lose your focus, end goal. And if you have that end goal firmly fixed, the processes can be changed without affecting that. Then flexibility is the name of the game.
Lovely. And I think Ms. Manoranjita has beautifully summed up what you said is discipline in approach and flexibility in mindset. Okay,
That kind of words, I don't know, I'm slightly weak in English. Another word,
Ivy, you said it beautifully, and what she's done is summarized it very nicely as well. Okay, so I'm going to put the second one to you, and I'm going to request that this is going to be really rapid fire.
Okay.
Because let's remember that this is a situation reaction test. I actually have the words written down because I didn't want to get it wrong. So
Okay.
what do you think is important, being a strategic planner or a spontaneous decision maker?
You have to be a strategic planner with the capability to have a spontaneous decision making. Strategic planning is a long term. Spontaneous is short term. How you tackle the incidental problems, because problems will keep coming. The strategy that is fixed, but the other things will keep coming. So you will have to be on your toes always. How to deal with the problems, Aaron, without losing focus on your strategic planning. That is very important.
Beautiful. So that's long term. This is immediate. And
One is fixed, the other one is flexible. So you have to be flexible enough to achieve the fixed. But spontaneous decision making is what is most difficult to achieve that target. That puts you in a fix most of the times because you are always in a dilemma. You have two, three options which you don't know with you. All the options seems okay, but then which option you choose is the issue when you don't have time in hand. Data is not in hand, analysis is not in hand. So that is where your experience comes in.
lovely.
Your appetite to take risks depends on the situation. It actually steers the course after that. Your appetite to take risk. So great leaders are foolish because they take a risk. That is what I have learned a lesson. So leaders are foolish enough to take a lot of risk.
Lovely. The last set that I have, and this is right from the walls of your own restaurant that I picked these words from. Rebellious troublemaker or a crazy genius? Which of this would describe you better?
I am
Rebellious
actually
troublemaker or a crazy genius?
straight away I will strike off genius because geniuses are born, not made. Rebellious, yes, you become one over a period of when situation presents to you. So I will not call rebellious. I am called people who do think in a situation, a particular situation in different way. That's all. When you don't do what you are expected to do, that is what is my nature probably.
We could probably then end up calling you a rebellious, crazy, troublemaking genius.
In one word, it is called as monkey. You jump from one place to another, not bothered about it. You are balancing with the tail, and you always sit on top of the tree because you are always a leader.
As long as it's doing something which entails being a genius, then why not?
Yeah, absolutely. They are the most intelligent creatures in the world, which we actually say in a different way. But I always feel that these are the creatures who always sit on top. They're always on top. Even if going from one place to another place, they're always on top.
Absolutely.
So become like that, behave like that, you will be always on top. I am like one, sorry.
So there's a question from Ms. Manoranjita, and she's asking, what was that one deciding factor perhaps for you that helped you make that dive into entrepreneurship? Was there one such thing? We did hear your story, but was there one final thing?
It's actually what happened is same. I want to come back to Tamil Nadu, Chennai at some point of time, and I didn't want it to be too late. Like I didn't want to lead a retired life, say come after 56 years, come have a cup of tea, and then again get back doing nothing. And I actually you have to do something. And in this case, my father was a great inspiration. He retired from armed forces at the age of 56. He's still working. He finds it difficult to walk. He finds it difficult to see her, but he still has got so much of energy, and he works in one non-banking financing company. Even at the age of 75, 78, for the last 5 years, he has got the award for the highest depositor sitting from Kovilpatti, beating all the people who are working from Chennai. So he is a big, big inspirational figure for me. Even today, I dread to sit in front of my father with the legs on, with cross legs or something like that. That is the kind of figure he has been to me. And I take a lot of inspiration from him. And I didn't want to sit idle. And if I at all I wanted to start something, I had to start something soon. So around 45 is the age where I thought I would have had get enough experience to handle all the pressure and had some kind of finances in place to take over or take forward whatever I'm thinking, whatever I'm doing. Incidentally, crazy event happened. Initially, there were a lot of resistance for people to, because I was totally new to the business. But once they knew that I am focused and pretty clear about my idea, they rallied behind me in all the troubled times, and just because of all these good-hearted people, I could sustain. I should not forget my parents and my siblings and my friends who held me together in all these troubled times, and I'm now super confident. Whatever happens, people are there to hold you.
Okay, I mean, I think what you're essentially saying is that it's been a lot of experiences which make you finally take that dive into entrepreneurship, but an underlying thought in all of that is tremendous faith in the people who have been with you, who've been supporting you, which gave you that courage to also, I think.
And I've been handling in my service most of the time. I've been doing project management, wherein I had the opportunity to draft contracts, make contracts, have discussion with vendors. And when we have some such a organizing a lot of like we organize the defense expo here in Chennai, where the Prime Minister, Defense Minister, all had come. So a lot of experience I had in managing any project given to us, irrespective of the nature of the project. Sometimes it can be organizing food for 1,000 odd people. Sometimes it is organizing exhibition for the vendors. Sometimes it is like doing a ship construction. So with variety of, but what I understood, the common factor in all of this is how do you manage the finances, how do you manage the contract, how do you plan your work. So once all this in places, it's just a matter of time before you learn any industry which you get into it. So that was the biggest strength what I had, or biggest experience I had, the project management, contract management, dealing with vendors, organizing things. In nutshell, it was administration again. That gave a lot of confidence, which I thought will be helpful in becoming an entrepreneur, whatever field I chose, and finally I chose F&B.
But and you're also touching on a very important point of the importance of being a learner. You don't come knowing everything, but then you learn it along the way, which brings us to another question that's there from the audience on, would you, your advice to someone would be to get into the entrepreneurship journey as a fresher, or would you say that give it a little time, collect some experience and then do it?
No, fresher, it will be much more better because they don't come with fixed ideas. Like that is my take on it. If you're a fresher, the world is full of options. If you are experienced, then you limit your option. Your options become very limited because you automatically reject so many options, things that might not work out because of my experience. But when you're fresher, you're full of energy. They are the real crazy ones who can try, explore everything, and they are not afraid to fall. Like in entrepreneurship, what I guess is if someone is not afraid to fall, someday, sooner or later, he is going to reach that heights because he's not going to be afraid to fall. That is the biggest takeaway what I got after seeing a lot of young people, or after interacting with a lot of youngsters who are into business. They are not scared of anything. Like I might tell whatever it is, but a lot of times I used to be scared. But then you have to teach yourself, or you have to kick yourself, and nothing is going to happen. You have to motivate yourself. You have to pull yourself. Probably that kind of this thing is not in youngsters. They're already there. Even if some failure happens, they are ready to leave that and go to the next area. They are actually the crazy guys who can take the world by the storm.
Right, I like the way you say crazy guys, which brings me to some last thoughts that we'd like to hear from you on Crazy Ivan. That's the name of your resto bar. And when I looked at the meaning of Crazy Ivan in the dictionary, it said any quick, unexpected, and radical change in direction, either literally or metaphorically. And I understand that the origin of this name is again inspired from your naval experience, right?
That's correct.
And so that holds a lot of deep meaning as well. So does it also express your own entry from the armed forces into the civilian world? You did share quite a bit about how that crossover has been. What lies ahead for you?
Now the next step, like, okay, now I've been assigned with a slightly bigger responsibility armed forces. Once I'm done with it, once I set with it, I intend to come out and get into full-time entrepreneurship to avoid conflict of interest. This because of COVID, this disruption happened. Otherwise, I would have been out last year. So since I've already started, I couldn't stop it. So, but these two cannot go together. Your concentration or your focus cannot be divided in two things which demands your focus equally. So probably now I would like to shift to entrepreneurship on a complete term. And Crazy Heaven, I feel for me at this point out, and just one of the ventures. I have many more things lined up which I have not explored before. I want to do so many things which I have not explored before. Probably that keeps my interest alive. And only thing what I sincerely request to God is please give me some money also in all these ventures. Let me earn also something. So that is the one thing. Otherwise, I'm open to explore whatever thing I can get into education field and be a competitor. I don't know. Or a doctor, unfortunately, I cannot become, but I can open a hospital or I don't know what is lying ahead, but I am definitely sure something interesting is lying ahead for me. I will make sure that is something interesting I take on. Like this speaking, speaking to such august gathering people, or be giving leadership lectures, or become a vendor to somebody, or start a, like right now I've got a contract with Amazon for setting up a food stall there. That is another step. I might start up with catering services to bigger firms. I don't know. But I definitely know something interesting is lying ahead of me, and I'm up for the challenges.
Wonderful, and it'd be delightful to collaborate with you at various levels.
Yeah, that is great. I see I got one client now. Who's ready
Either a client or a collaborator. We don't know
Yes,
what size. It's been a
That's
delightful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing so much of your life experiences, what goes on behind when you are a cadet, when you're an officer in the armed forces, how that prepares you for not just an entrepreneurship alone, but for life itself. And like I said right at the beginning, what's wonderful is that I think you've broken all stereotypes and mental models and made this conversation so easy for us. So truly appreciate you opening out and having such a candid conversation with all of us. I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Gayatri to help us with the closing remarks for this evening.
Yeah, before that, I should thank you, Prabha, for such a beautiful conversation. You kept me engaged, and you was forcing me to think. I have to speak something that forced me to think, okay, radically, what is the lessons learned? What are the takeaways? Finally, I should definitely see the kind of profile I've seen from this wiki. Everyone is master of their own business, and I'm so happy that I could. I mean, I got this opportunity to interact with you all. Every day I meet new people. This is new to me. I have not met people outside my sphere for a long time. And I'm meeting a lot of people with new ventures and new ideas, and the spirit in them, the josh in them, the interest in them, the happiness, the smile. It's also inspiring, and it gives a lot of confidence. Okay, you have got a lot of people who you can learn a lot from them, and thanks a lot for giving me opportunity to interact with all. It was a great pleasure. It was a great pleasure. I'm probably looking forward to more sessions like this, not necessarily on this thing, probably on business. I can interact with any of you and say, please help me out, please help me out. And I am sure that everyone will just come up, okay, Ashok, namak therinja payan help or not. It is a great,
pleasure is mutual. Thank you very much for your kind words and your thoughts. Over to you, Gayatri.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabha. That was absolutely wonderful conversation. I definitely trust that each and every one of us, present here and also watching, would have definitely enjoyed this conversation. And thank you, sir, for being a part of this Wiki Talk. And thank you, Abhi and Raj, for bringing spectacular speakers, every month. It's insightful and really inspiration to every one of us. It's not only listening to the talks, but it's taking lessons from what they speak, right? So we are sailing through the journey. And about you, sir, thank you for all your time. And what based on this conversation, what we understood, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. That was absolutely wonderful for you. And உங்களுக்காக ஒரு தமிழ்ல ஒரு சின்ன ஊக்கம் மிக்க கவிதை, சுமக்க தெரிந்து கொண்டால் சுமைகளும் சுலபம்தான், சாதிக்க பழகிவிட்டால் தடைகளும் சவால்தான். That absolutely wonderful hat for you. So I thought I will connect with this. And as Prabha rightly pointed out, during your training journey and being empathetic, I think that has led a long way to you to understand, self-esteem is very important and connecting with people. And I think that was the biggest asset for you, taking the leads of the vendors in setting up your resto bar. And hearing your journey, I think you are from, you're a hero from Kovilpatti to Kovalam. That is the closest to place. That is the closest to place I can connect with OMR. That is absolutely wonderful. And I know being a startup entrepreneur, I think it's going to be tough for anyone, in understanding the business. And that confidence and being a risk taker, I think that is the biggest asset for anyone to take a lead. So believing yourself and being confident and plunging into the passion, what you had it in your mind. When you visited different restaurants in Vizag with your son, I think that is a wonderful quote I like to relate. You don't need a silver fork to eat food. You simply nailed it. I don't need a brand. I don't need a brand, or I don't need a already set up. I don't need a franchisee. I can do it on my own. That was absolutely beautiful takeaway, and you did it. And during this COVID time, treating people, respecting people, and having trust with them, in leading your way a long way. We wish a very successful journey to you, to have a great entrepreneurship journey. And with this, I like to finish my vote of thanks with a small understanding about your restaurant, what you talked and what is your journey, and the name, the Crazy Ivan, but I looked it as different. So I just want to sum it up as a pinch of your restaurant is a pinch of happiness, one handful of kindness, 2 spoonful of gentleness, 1 liter of sharing, 2 teaspoons of helpfulness, 3 heaped teaspoons of laughter, 50 grams of smile, and a sprinkling of cheerfulness, and 100 grams of love. And that is not Crazy Ivan, that is Crazy Ivan, that is Mr. Ashok. Thank you.
Thank you
that
so
was
much.
wonderful
Thank you so
connect. Thank you, sir, for
You all
connecting
been a
with
great,
us.
you all been a great inspiration, and that is the biggest takeaway for me. I can see the kind of sense of achievement in all of you, and that is the biggest takeaway. Once you achieve something, it gives a lot of confidence, and it gives a lot of good people to interact with. That is most important. I have connected so many good people, and this connection is going to continue, and it will be my pleasure to have you all succeed many more times more than whatever we achieved, and let's continue the journey together. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, team. I'm back to Raj and Abhi for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Pleasure, Commander Ashok, to have you as part of Wiki Talks, to share your journey. And it's, very touching when you said that you have to respect the self-respect of others. It's so important in team building. It is so easy to cut somebody down, but it's so nice to build people up. So very, very nice to hear you talk about that. In fact, when I was in your restaurant last week, I could see that, one of your staff had stayed out on a Saturday night till 1 a.m. and he was back at work, at 8:30 or something to open up the restaurant. And I think that is, speaks of the motivation that you have given your people, right? So wonderful. On that note, we have shared the coordinates of your restaurant in our chat box. So I'm sure that all council members, you'll be seeing a lot more of us. And yeah.
Before I part, I think we should all meet at Crazy Ivan. A good place to meet.
Yes. We've also been wanting to have a physical meet. So hopefully it will all come together soon.
Absolutely. My pleasure. It'll be great to interact in person.
Yes.
Thank you so
much for your time. Yeah, thank you
so much. Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.